process.
Ms. Mayo, you have the floor.
I've read some of the CSBA documents that you provided to me. They were dated 2004. There are subsequent documents that I have ordered from CSBA to review. The recommendations that you are referencing are just that, recommendations, and you presented them to us when we were already engaged in setting these targets for the superintendent through the process that we've employed in the past. It's my understanding that it is appropriate for the board to do this work under superintendent's evaluation. And when you can provide the board with information that's different, then please do so, and we will consider our actions. I believe that we have established some good targets for our district and for the superintendent to work with our schools in regards to your comments about less information being provided. I believe that the superintendent will continue to provide the information on a weekly basis because that's the way staff provides the information to him. So we were all very disappointed that you chose to leave the meeting. We respected your decision, though where I guess I'm confused to some degree because you've indicated that you want to be involved, yet you choose to step out. You're doing that because of your principles, and we moved forward because we felt that we needed to accomplish some work over the summer. So,
and just to respond to that would be, I asked Mrs. Whitmarsh several days before the July 16th meeting what exactly is on the agenda, and if it's the superintendent's goals, then the agenda should reflect that. I received no response, as I said. I did that again before the August 20th meeting. If that's the superintendent's goals, then that should be on the agenda. No corrections, no alteration made. So I think my viewpoint was crystal clear. I don't receive any responses to my emails, so therefore I'm sitting in the dark and there isn't the courtesy of informing.
We know that there's an ongoing communication difficulty between the district office and some individuals and yourself, and we haven't figured out how we're going to resolve that particular issue. There's an example of an email that was sent to everyone. You shared that you did not receive it. I forwarded it to you, and you did in fact indicate that you had already received that email, or at least that's what I understood from your response. So there's a problem on both sides, I think, is what we need to acknowledge, and we all need to work at figuring out how to do that. Whether when we receive an email, all 5 of us forward it to you, I don't know what the response can be. But
well, Mrs.
I'm
Mayo,
willing
it's
to work
also
on,
not just email.
Excuse me, I believe Ms. Mayo was talking.
So,
Ms. Mayo,
I believe we should
statement.
all work on the communication effort, and I will continue to do the best I can in communicating with you.
Thank you. And it's not just the email, it's actually sitting in front of someone and asking that question to that individual and getting no response whatsoever, sitting with the 2 individuals face to face and getting no response. Why did I not get any sort of answer? I get no response sitting with the individual. Why I got no response to my email? So it's not an email issue, it's actually an unwillingness to provide information. And I'm suggesting here, and I'm not even suggesting, I'm stating that this has to happen. We have to be more forthright in the information that we provide to the public. We have to pay attention to how it is we're agendizing things. I think we are tending to rely upon certain static categories on the agenda rather than thinking in terms of how can we convey this information to the public and in a more informative manner, and rather than just we have these set categories and that's what we stick with. There's no harm in being more informative to the public by altering something and saying it's superintendent's goals, not superintendent's evaluation. The 2004 CSBA document is the one, and when I proposed this bylaw change, which did not appear on tonight's agenda, I took a survey of all the districts around us and found dozens that use this exact bylaw representation, which is based on CSBA, and that's what most of our bylaws are. So it's not an unusual one. They reference the 2004, that's the commonly used document. It's a starting point when you bring forward a bylaw, amendment to a bylaw. It's intended for information, that's what I presented it as. But if it doesn't appear on the agenda, it's not informative and there is no discussion. That is something the board should embrace, that you bring forward an amendment to a bylaw or want to consider how we do things. Can we do them better? And when I bring it forward as an information item, that's a chance to say, I have some other documents that might be helpful. And it's a chance for the board to agree or disagree. So I would welcome that other information come forward. I think the mistake we make is when we don't discuss.
Well, Ms. Hanson, you asked that it be changed. I, as a board president, determined it should not be changed. It was a matter of two opinions. I went with my opinion over your opinion.
Well, my point, Mrs. Whitmarsh, has been that the board president in our bylaws is not given the authority to decide this isn't irrelevant.
We're not gonna argue that point.
Not,
That's already
excuse me,
been
Mr. Eberhard.
Pretty well.
Excuse me, Mr. Eberhard, I have the floor.
Excuse me.
We'll let Ms. Hanson will finish, and then Mr. Eberhard, and then Ms. Mayo.
In our bylaws, the board president's role is to decide if it's under the jurisdiction of the board. When an agenda item is submitted, it's under the jurisdiction of the board, and is it appropriate for closed or open session? So the problem I have is we're 5 board members, we're trying to represent the community, and it's our responsibility to bring forward agenda items that we think represent the interests of the community. And it is not in our board bylaw that the board president gets to determine that she agrees or disagrees with the agenda item. That is really in the purview of the board and should be placed on the agenda. And the way that the board says, I don't agree with you, is you don't second it or you suggest an amendment, but it's not to just ban it from appearing on an agenda. My job, as I see it as a board member, is to represent the community, and that is what I attempt to do. And I don't think the board's job to decide that one person doesn't like the agenda item. That's what the information is for. That's where you have a chance to speak up, and that's where you have a chance not to second me, and that's where you have a chance to kill it off, but not before it even reaches the public.
Mr. Eberhard, do you have any responses?
No, I'm not gonna respond to that. It's, you talk about your job or our jobs as board members. One of our jobs as a board member is to show up prepared. And one thing